Hello everyone, my name is Vasil, I am a product owner at Shelly and today I'm going to present to you Shelly Fleet Management. In this particular video, you will see a brief explanation about what the Fleet Manager conceptually is, as well as what the differences between the Fleet Management and the Shelly Cloud are. In the website, you'll also be able to find some use cases, and in a separate video, we will also do an in-detail demo of the Fleet Management itself. Let's start with the basics. What is the Fleet Manager? The Fleet Manager is a tool to monitor, manage and provision fleets of Shelly smart devices across one or multiple locations. It is also a centralized platform for real-time data acquisition, remote control, automation and reporting. Here in this graph I have better visualized that. The Fleet Manager is the core solution, it is the spine of the solution. This is the place where you connect all your devices, where you store all your data, and through which you control all of those devices. Then on top, you can fine-tune it to become an energy management system, a building management system, security system, or whatever your particular use case is all about. You can do that in two ways, either via developing a plugin or using one that we provide you with, or via making a simple top layer. Imagine the following. You have the Fleet Manager, it is your stable backend where you have all your devices attached to, and you have a simple application of yours which is mostly front-end, through which you make some interesting dashboards, visualizations, but you control all the devices and you get all the data from them via the Fleet Manager's API. And at the top comes the end client, which uses that fine-tuned version of the Fleet Management. There are some use cases which allow the Fleet Manager to be used just as is, of course. If you are interested to simply use it as an admin panel, as a control panel for the business itself, no problems. If you want an end client to see some particular dashboards, or maybe you want them to be able to have some visualizations that are not currently added to the Fleet Manager, then a plugin or a top layer is the way to go. Now, let's jump into the capabilities of the Fleet Manager. What do we support as is before adding plugins? First, the Fleet Manager is a digital warehouse where you can store all your Shelly devices. The Fleet Manager can comfortably store up to 10,000 devices. Keep in mind that how many devices the Fleet Manager can store and control really depends on how powerful the hardware on which it is hosted is. So if you host it by us, 10,000 devices easily, and it can be scaled up infinitely. However, if you host it by yourself, you will have to look into our documentation to find out how powerful your hardware must be in order for you to be able to accommodate your needs. We also support dashboards and reporting. With those dashboards, you can see some data about the voltage, the current, the returned energy, the power, the consumption, etc. And all that data that is visualized with those dashboards can also be turned into reports. You can export those reports in a CSV format, which then you can use for your business or to use as source of information for a separate dashboard of yours. We also support scheduling and automation via Node-RED or via the API. Of course, we have developed custom Node-RED nodes via which you can build all kinds of different automations. Now, let's get to the real important part. Via plugins, you can fine-tune your Fleet Manager to become whatever system you require it to be. Whether, I will give the examples from earlier, BMS, EMS, security system, control storage system, check out whether your freezers are about to malfunction, so preventative maintenance system, all kinds of things. Whatever your mind can imagine as a use case of the Shelly devices, it can be done via the Fleet Management, in particular via using plugins. We have also made a way for you to be able to mass provision devices. The app that we have developed is called Shelly FMA. That comes from Fleet Management Assistant. How does it work? You download the app, you log in with your Fleet Management credentials, and after that, your phone starts scanning your surroundings for Bluetooth devices. All Shelly devices around you will be listed. Then, what you can do is just select those that you want to configure and click the Configure Selected button. We support two types of configurations, standard and quick add. The standard configuration is a way for you to predefine configurations prior to the actual installation. Imagine the following. You are the business owner. You know that there is an installation coming. What you do is you open your Fleet Management and within it you define a configuration. The Wi-Fi credentials, whether you want the device's Bluetooth to turn off, whether you want some MQTT connection to be done, or whatever. On the day of the installation, the installer will just have to log in and select that configuration of yours. Or if you have to do some installation out of the blue, you have not prepared for it, you can just go there and use the Quick Add functionality. The Quick Add functionality is made in such a way that you only have to configure the Wi-Fi credentials, after which the devices automatically will connect to the fleet management, where you can proceed with the configuration further at any point after that. If the configuration was successful, you would see green check marks for all of the devices. Else, there will be some red crosses. If there is a red cross, you'll be prompted to retry them. If you click the retry button in case of a failure, all those devices that failed will be automatically reconfigured. We also support actions. What are actions? Actions are our way of allowing customers to send commands to many devices without them having to use the API itself. Imagine you want to set an MQTT connection for 1000 devices. What you can do is you define the command, you select a set of devices, and you send it to all of them. We also support mass firmware updates. You can update a selected by you set of devices either to the latest stable version or to the latest beta version. Also, we support automatic updates, which will allow you to just once enable that function and forget about that device. You will know that it is always up to the latest stable firmware version. We also do support device backups. Imagine the following use case. You have a device. It has served you well, but at some point it has malfunctioned or it got stolen or whatever. But you have backed it up. What you can do is just go at the site and install another device of the same type and just apply the backup to it. This way you would easily and quickly replace a device. Now, why to choose the Fleet Manager and what are the main differences between it and the Shelly Cloud? As you may know, the Shelly Cloud is a B2C solution, and as such it has a soft limit of 200 to 300 devices per account. This is more than enough for a client, an end client, with a home or a small office. But if you want to scale it up, if you want to automate a whole building or multiple buildings, or to track energy across many sites, it becomes difficult to scale and to control. For that reason, the fleet management as a B2B solution goes way above that limit, allowing you to work with thousands and thousands of devices in just one instance. Another thing, there are some use cases like co-location centers, banks, etc., which do not want to share their data with cloud providers. Shelly follows all of the European regulations about GDPR and for security as well. However, there are just some use cases where people do not want that to be shared. And for that reason, we have made the fleet management also open source, which would allow such people to host that locally. Of course, everyone is open to do that, not only such use cases. You just have to be enough technically profound to be able to maintain it in the long term. Last but not least, the Fleet Manager also allows for full customization. You can do that in basically 3 ways. First, the easiest way via plugins. You either use a trusted partner of ours to develop the plugin for you, or you do it yourself and you just upload that plugin within the Fleet Manager, after which you have successfully expanded its functionality without having to change the core functionality. If you want a full customization, full makeover, you are always welcome to just pull the open source repository and edit it. And last comes the third way, which is actually not a customization of fleet management itself, but an expansion. If you want to have a platform of yours, but you want a stable backend and a place to be able to reliably control all of your devices, what you can do is develop a very small and easy platform of yours, which is mostly front-end and maybe authentication and whatever, which you would only use to display interesting dashboards and add some buttons. But in its heart, in the core, stays the fleet management, because from that application of yours, via the API of the fleet management, you send all commands and receive all data. Now, what are 2 frequently asked questions by clients? First, does the fleet management have an API? Yes, the fleet management has an API, and with the API you can execute 3 types of commands. First, you can control each and every device. So everything that is described in the Shelly API documentation for each of the separate types of devices is fully supported via the API of the Fleet Manager. Second, you're able to execute fleet management commands. An example of that would be create a group inside the Fleet Manager, or maybe remove a device from the Fleet Manager. And third, you're able to execute plugin commands. Plugins can be developed in such a way that would allow you to expose new API endpoints. And via the Fleet Management's API, you can invoke them. Second question, what happens to the cloud connection when I connect a device to the Fleet Manager? Nothing. The answer is nothing. The cloud and the Fleet Manager are two solutions that can exist simultaneously. A device can reside in both of them in parallel. This is very good for you as a tester at some point, because imagine the following thing. You have built a system and that system works with the cloud very well, but you want to scale. But the Fleet Manager is something new for you. You cannot yet trust it. What you can do is just apply for a free trial and move all of those devices to the Fleet Manager as well. And even if the worst is to happen, you would still have the safety of the cloud as a backup, because both of them will be working simultaneously. Look through the website to see some use cases of the Fleet Management. I am waiting for you in the second video where I'll make a deep dive into the Fleet Management and show you the UI of it.